You're gonna go to Tokyo soon and you love vintage shopping, print screen this slide and the next. So all these stores I'm recommending are from Shibuya, so I'm gonna divide the stores based on area and streets. Okay, the first area is Omotesando, where you're gonna find Amore, the famous vintage store where you see the Chanel handbag wall. Well, they just opened another location called Amore Archive, where you're gonna find 3 floors of Chanel ready-to-wear. Like there was so much ready-to-wear, such good quality from the 50s, 80s, 90s, like you name it. It was all there, and you can find a little bit of handbags and some Birkin on the 3rd floor. Across from Archive is the second Amore store where you can find more multi-brands like Dior, Fendi, Celine, vintage jewelry, vintage watches from Rolex and other brands, and a selection of Kellys and Birkins. And obviously you're not going to miss the third Amore store, which is around the corner, where you can find a huge selection of Chanel handbags. So if you're trying to find a Chanel handbag, that is the location you should go to. Across is Vintage QOO. It's 2 floors. The first floor is multi-brand, and the first floor had so many LV bags. Like if you're looking for the vintage LV denim bags or the Murakami bags, go here. And they also had a bit of Celine and Burberry and Dior. And the second floor is focused on vintage Chanel. And right next to it is Komeo Vintage Store. This is their vintage store, not their consignment stores. They have a lot of consignment stores and I hate them. They're overwhelming and I don't like the way they organize their product. But their vintage store is quite good. It's just Chanel and Hermes, and their Chanel's, I would say, is cheaper than Amore. We are still in Shibuya, but on the other side, and we have Paradise Vintage. Paradise Vintage was a bit pricey, but they did have a lot of vintage Chanel classic flaps. So if you're looking for different shapes and different buckle sizes, that's the place to go. There were so many gorgeous and pretty good condition Chanels. And then they also had LV and Hermes upstairs. And around the corner, we have the second one, Camila Vintage. This store is the most well-priced out of all the stores I'm mentioning. Pretty much the cheapest, I think, out of all these stores, and they had all the brands. Now heading to another area in Shibuya, to Daikanayama. The first is Layer Vintage. Layer Vintage, I would say, they had a lot of accessories. So if you're looking for Chanel earrings, necklace, chain belts, that's the place to go. And the prices were quite good. And kind of close by is Smith Artique. Smith Artique, I would say it's the most vintage store out of all of the ones I'm recommending. It kind of reminds me of a store in Paris, like really pre-loved vintage, but still somewhat good condition, but they're really pre-loved. And I think this is the store that you can actually bargain, but don't tell the sales associate I said that. Here we have Maison de Seven. Maison de Seven, I really like the aesthetic of the store. The selection wasn't that unique, I would say, but their online store looks really good. And I also remember that their Hermes prices weren't as crazy, so I think it's worth checking it out for Hermes. And lastly, we have Heidi. I didn't